My favorite thing about being the doula is probably everybody's favorite thing. No birth is the same, right? Everyone you walk into, that experience is different. I love the sound of labor. So when you get to that transition part, right, that either whether a mom is humming or she's moaning or the rhythm that happens in labor.
Welcome to the CCDS Doula Collaboration Podcast, where birth and postpartum professionals come together to learn, grow, and support one another. I'm your host, Melissa Harley, a doula trainer and passionate advocate for the power of birth and postpartum care. This podcast is a space for authentic conversations with doulas and other perinatal professionals, from those just starting out to seasoned experts shaping our field. We'll hear from those in my circles, industry leaders, and community changemakers. And I hope that you'll find inspiration, education, connection, and collaboration here. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's get to it. Hi, Talethia.
Hey, Melissa, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm so excited to see you today.
Yes, I was super excited about this talk. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I know you as a pretty big change maker in our community, but I would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. Talethia Edwards, mother of 8 children, really in all stages of life. I would like to think of myself as a coalition builder. Of course, I'm a doula, advocate, entrepreneur, so all the things. Just trying to balance life and contribute at the same time.
I watch you on social media and I see that you have your hands in so many different areas. Tell me a little bit about some of those passion points for you. Like, what do you like doing? I see you're doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, really community development in marginalized areas, which means there's a lot of intersectionalities, right? Affordable housing, mental health, early childhood education, just basic needs. And when you say basic needs in areas like mine, that's everything. That's all the things. And so trying to contribute in ways where I can bring voice to areas for community where individuals aren't always invited, right? So I'm here and there. I'm currently serving as the executive director of Good News Outreach, and we have 5 programs, a male and female reentry program. We have a senior affordable housing. We have temporary transitional housing for families, a 1,200 square foot pantry. So it's a lot of things in that role and alongside the community work I do every day.
And being a mom of 8 at the same time.
That's the biggest job.
It is. Do you see some of this work intersecting with your doula practice? And tell us a little bit about the doula space that you work in.
Definitely. So I actually got into the doula space having labored and birthed my children with a midwife and unmedicated. And so a lot of people would ask, hey, can you help me also have my babies unmedicated? That's kind of how it started. And then when I really started reading the numbers, I'm a young lady that I went to college with, she passed away. And that was the closest thing to me that I had saw maternal death. And her death, her husband really became a big advocate because his wife's death was preventable. Literally, had someone listened to her, she would still be alive with him and that baby. But that didn't happen, and tragically we lost her. I'm like, wait a minute, someone needs to be in the room having eyes on these mamas having these babies. And I knew about doulas, but doulas seemed out of reach for Black women, right? So we were not having doulas. We would have midwives with our OBGYNs because it was beginning to be common practice that midwives were in the office with the OB. But I learned about doulas, and I'm like, I'm going to become certified as a doula. And I found you and became certified so I could legally be in the room and do the work and advocate. And the place where I see that work intersecting with my community work is we really doula in community, right? That support, that emotional, psychological, physical support of getting an individual or a community, in my instance, to the next place safely, right? We have informed consent, all the things that we are there as support, and we're not taking away the voice or the right, but we're there to help influence in a positive way that birthing person to get the needs that they need met. And I feel that same way as a that's why I call myself a coalition builder, bringing all of those pieces together and moving the work to the next space.
Do you think it's important for doulas to be involved in their broader community? Because I know that clearly is really important to you. And I see you sometimes I see you at the school board meeting, or, you're doing all kinds of things in your community. Do you think that is really important for doulas to be in that community space?
Definitely. I think that we are a resource, right? So while we are doing the laboring process, we are that emotional and physical all support for the family, but we are also a resource to our clients. We may get clients from all walks of life, and without being enriched in the community, knowing the resources that are available, or even being able to pick up the phone, hey, I have a mom in crisis. How can I connect them? Not knowing that really does your client a disservice if you run into someone that may have those needs, or to offer them the resources as a need. Better have it than not need it, and to need it and not have it, right? And so I've had all types of clients, private play clients, Medicaid clients. I've recently joined our community doula program, which is Grow Doula, just as a resource because I was already doing this work. And they're really big on community-centered resources. And how can you be a part of that if you're not tethered to what's happening in community?
And Grow Doula in Florida is working with the Florida Healthy Start programs, right?
Right. Yes.
So are you providing doula services for Healthy Start clients now?
So I'm eligible. I have not. I took a little bit of a step back. I was getting my master's degree in urban planning, and then I took on 2 ED roles, which got me really, really busy. And so I have literally been taking clients who will call and say, I'm like, I can be your doula, I can help you, but if you want a full on doula support from that 3rd trimester to birth, I may not be that person. But if you are looking for somebody, you can pick up the phone and call. I could be a resource, and then I can make sure that I'm available during labor and delivery. I'll do that. And so that's what I've been doing lately. Chris calls all the time and says, Talethia, we're ready for you, but you got to be emotionally and physically present when you decide to do doula work full time like that. And so I'm very careful with saying, oh, I'll take a client, not knowing is how busy my life is going to be. And the program is run in really specific steps for each client through the Grow Doula program. So I'm there. If they need me and I'm ready to step in, I can do it at any moment, but I haven't taken any clients.
I've been working with a lot of Healthy Start programs, primarily out of the state of Florida, because they do have that connection with Grow. But I've been doing work with like some of the Healthy Start programs in Louisiana and Georgia and some of the others. And I am so excited actually about what they are bringing to the table for clients and doulas also, because what we're seeing is that parents that maybe couldn't afford to have a doula in the past, they're coming through Healthy Start. Healthy Start is able to pay the doulas at a decent wage where they can keep their lights on. And at the same time, the parents can get that amazing support. So I am so excited to see the growth within these Healthy Start programs to include doulas as part of their regular case management or just general care. And I was just on a call earlier today with a Florida focus group for a study that's being done out of University of Florida on doulas. And we were talking about how Healthy Start programs are really starting to, I think, pay for doulas through a lot of grant funding, but the clients are then able to come in and that there's no income requirement really to be a Healthy Start client. Like anyone can come in and be a part of Healthy Start to get their journey to parenthood off to a healthier beginning. And I think that's a piece people don't realize about Healthy Start. So that was a little bit of a side note on Healthy Start, but I love it so much.
I love it. And Healthy Start is doing the work. It's a trusted agency that's been working with families. That's low barrier to entry, right? And I really like that intentionality around doulas understanding that all the things that Healthy Start does, we reduce C-section rates, right? Help with the mental health and postpartum, reducing postpartum in parents. And so that's a really big thing. And here, our Healthy Start director, she's really amazing and really wants to grow the program. And so I've served, while I'm not necessarily taking clients, I've served as like the doula's doula, right? So Talethia, you've been doing this for a while. You got several births under your belt. How do we come in and talk to new doulas about doing this work and helping them understand the physical work, right? The physical labor of being in a room with someone, what does that look like? So it's not just this glory of, oh, the baby's coming and boom. Sometimes it's just really long hours and you're tired and you got to be able to take care of yourself in order to go in that room and take care of that parent who is birthing as well. So I really enjoy that part as well, like sharing with those who are aspiring doulas who may be a little romanticized about what the doula work is in the beginning, but who decide to stick with it and like, yeah, this is something I want to do, and to see how they grow. Same as you done for us, right? That energy, this is important work. And when you decide to do it, you got to do it wholeheartedly. I just don't do it at all. So it's just truth for it.
Yeah. I'm really excited that you're working with them. That's great. Let's talk a little bit about your recent college graduate degree. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I went back to school to get a master's in urban planning. So I told you a little bit when I was in training that I was doing community organizing in my neighborhood, and we were doing some great work. But I saw a lot of inequities in the planning process and the engagement of Black and brown communities. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to infiltrate this field. And I went back to school. I don't know if that's the way I should have infiltrated it because school was hard with all the kids, but I got it done. And I'm now an urban planner, and it was an amazing experience amid the hard work. But to really be able to learn the technical processes of urban planning and pair it with my lived experience, right? Many days I was like the old lady in class crying because I finally had a name to the experiences that was happening, and some good, some bad. But it was overall something that I needed to take the next step professionally. I was advocating, my voice is well respected across sectors, but I needed to professionalize the work in a way so that I can walk in rooms. And I'm not just talking from a lived experience perspective, but I'm talking from a professional technical experience. And I am translating the lived experience on the ground to how professionals understand it, hopefully aid into community revitalization, equitable community development, just all the things that will make community better. Because what we see is we're developing all around us, but marginalized communities are developing at a much slower rate. And there's a gap, a disconnect between the systems and the people and how that is implemented on the ground. And I wanted to be a part of that in a real way.
It's so interesting to hear you share a little bit about, well, really just diving into these communities to make a difference. And to me, that intersects perfectly with your doula work, because that's what you're doing in the birth space, is to trying to make a difference with those individual families and helping them have safer, more equitable birth, for sure.
That's right.
So that's an exciting, I think, accomplishment. And just we'll take a second to recognize the work that must have taken with 8 babies at home, not babies, but children. And
yes.
young adults. You have some older ones too, right?
Yes, I do. So I have 2 less in college, my 19-year-old, my 17-year-old, and my 16-year-old is getting ready to go off to school. So he's in the waiting process now of hearing back from universities, and then he'll be in the decision phase in a couple weeks of where he's going to end up. And so that coaching phase, so this is a new phase for me, the young adult phase, right? And it is more, and I know this is the coaching phase. I'm still their mother, but I am coaching. I'm guiding them and giving them little pieces as they figure it out. And I like that. And I said to my daughter the other day, I was like, I really like you as a person. Like, I know I'm your mom, but I like you like a friend, right? I'm watching you develop into a wonderful person. And she's like, I don't need you to be my friend, just my mom. I was like, a mom friend. It's not really like a friend. And I was explaining to her, but that this part of watching them grow and seeing them walk out with what I've taught and what the dad has been a part of is really rewarding.
Yeah, that's exciting. That young adult phase is really, it's so freeing, but it's also really challenging because you have to really let them make their own mistakes. And we can walk up to the gate with them, but not, it's like labor. We can't walk through it for them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You take them right to the door.
Yeah, you do. And hope for the best in some regard. But no, I think I'm sure you've laid a good foundation, and that's what I think we try to do. Okay, I'm really excited about your book that came out last year, the year before.
Yeah, it's a 23, end of 23.
2023. Okay, so tell us about your book.
So my book is really an obedience project. The Lord had told me some years ago, your first book is in your journals. There's no way that I believed that, which is what took me so long. No way that I believe that anything that I could have written in my journals over the years could be valuable to anybody. But I was turning 40 and I got to a place in my life where I'm like, well, I want to be full obedience. I have no problem walking in the systems and speaking to people in power. Why can I not do this thing that I believe I was called to do? And so I began to go back in my journals and pull pieces out. It was really super emotional because, you've passed that space, right? You're in another place, but I worked through it, and it's a reflective journal. So I'm using reflective writing as a tool to help guide individuals based on my experience and entries that I pull from old journals to say, hey, this is where I was at the time. This is where I am now, right? Or maybe I'm still working on it. This part is still a journey. And now I offer the reader, an opportunity to have their own reflection. Have you been here? Are you here? What did you do in this situation? Or how are you navigating, right? What are the tools? And it was really well received. I was really, really shocked that people received it as like, not just, oh yeah, it's her journal. No, but the audience learning about reflective writing, and it really extended into a Writing for Wellness workshop series that using the wellness wheel, because I also went on a wellness journey. That was my first part of my wellness journey, was the book. And so, yeah, I'm an author.
You're an author. Just add another little thing behind your name, right?
All right. Yeah.
With all the accomplishments. So do you feel like this journal would actually be good for doulas, like in their reflection and their work? Or what do you think about that?
I really do. Believe it or not, I've had some therapists call and order several of the books to have for their clients who may be struggling with expression. So because I'm super authentic and super open, transparent in the book, I put pieces in there that some people ask. I talk about my own mental illness and working through that, and the burden and joy of parenthood and having so many small children. Marriage, I talk about lots of things. And so the book covers an array of life experiences with that reflective opportunity. So I think it is practical in any space when you think about, because reflective writing is not just summarizing journal writing, right? It's a tool and a practice to say it's introspection, where I am, what's happening, how I'm feeling, and then how do I get to the next place? And so that tool of reflective writing that the book offers is definitely a tool I would think doulas could use, even help with their clients. Because as a doula, you get some clients who may have had a traumatic experience before the birth that they're working on it, so they haven't processed through it, or they're fearful because they're first time mom and they're going into a space that they don't know what to expect. And being able to utilize reflective writing as a tool and really acknowledge how you're feeling and develop skills and coping mechanisms for the next space to deal with those feelings is a really good thing.
And I was thinking about it too from a doula's perspective, that sometimes doulas go into spaces where they experience almost secondary trauma. So they watch things happen, or they bear witness to something happening. It could be something small, from the birth not going the way the client really had hoped and dreamed, to something big medically happening with the client, or something else going on clinically. And I feel like sometimes we do like we do with, like, for instance, loss or miscarriage. We pick up that rug and we sweep it right under and we keep going. Right. And I feel like for those, especially that like to journal, or maybe they like to journal but actually need some more guidance on how to get those thoughts out, it feels like this might be a really good tool.
Yes, definitely. And it's funny that you mentioned that trauma we experienced secondhand, and we just try to get over it. I was in a birth and the placenta did not come out. And that was like, oh my God, I know that this can happen, right? Aware of it, doing all the things, watching the midwife do all the things, and that placenta was not expelling. And just being there, now it's a medical emergency, right? So we went from getting baby here, baby is healthy, big, safe, mom is already latch baby, to we are in crisis. And I remember thinking, like, I'm not prepared to see something outside of this mom get this placenta out. I don't want to see anything else, because I can remember just if you've been in one of those experiences, I could remember just feeling like, what do I do? And that night coming back home and really just sobbing with my husband. And he was like, you went to a birth. What are you crying for? What are you crying for? But that secondary trauma is seeing the fear in that mom's face and not really being able to do anything but pray and wait for the ambulance to take her on to the hospital. So yeah, it was really good to reflect and write about that. And, how do you then process through that, right? And I went back when that mom got out and we painted like something about that. It's just to take that negative trauma and turn it into something that was beautiful.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a space for some self-growth. I think personal growth, obviously, for everybody, like you said, in all spaces. But even as doulas, I think there could be, if someone wants to have a way to process things, this journal could really help with processing in those things for sure. I'm curious, as I think about all the work that you do and everything that you are involved in, how do you juggle the busyness of life, and how do you find that work-life balance, as they like to call it? Do you think there's a such thing?
I do think it's a such thing. You definitely have to have a balance of work time, a play time, a me time, right? And I'm really balanced in a way that I'm super prepared at work. So I try to stay ahead of, you can't stay ahead of fires, but stay ahead of the curve and the work that's coming so that I can have the space to be available for my family. But I also implemented what I call Frolic Fridays. And so Frolic Fridays is I do anything I want to do, whether it's golf, go out for lunch with friends, stay late in the bed. And late in the bed for me is 8 o'clock. Like, so I wake up super early in the morning, but laying in the bed to 8 is a treat for me. And then I have my sisters. My sisters are really, really great balance for me. One sister I talk to every day. Every morning we start our day together and we're praying and reflecting and thinking about what we're going to meet today or what we dealt with yesterday during the time we haven't talked into the next morning. And that allows for things to settle in place. The band app for my family, that's important. Definitely since I started working out of the house. And I was just talking to a friend about my mom guilt. And I'm having some mom guilt because I'm not as involved with my younger girls as I was my older kids, right? But that's because I was a stay-at-home mom. I didn't have to worry about going to work and being wherever they needed me to be. I was literally needing to just go wherever I need to go. And that's not happening. And so, yeah, I feel some guilt about that. But I had to really talk to myself and say, no, I'm putting all the tools in place. I'm asking for the dates ahead of time. We have family meetings on Sunday, so that's a reminder to put the dates in the calendar. And if they're not there, I can't do anything if I'm now overbooked. I just can't. Right. And so with that being said, I'm trying to balance that. And I talked to my girls and I said, listen, I know when I was working at home or wasn't in a place where I went into an office, you can call me that day and say, oh, Mom, I forgot to tell you, my school is doing something at 10 o'clock and I just run over. That doesn't happen anymore. So you and I both have to be very cognizant that Mom is working in a different space and that I want to be there, but I can't if you don't help me be there. And so I hope they understand that. I try, but that's my balance. My family is first. I tell anybody if I take a position that my family is first. I have 8 children, and I may say, oh, I gotta do something with this child. That's one day, but it could be something with another the next. And so that's the balance I try to have, and it's working so far.
Yeah, I like that you have a few structured things like Frolic Friday and family meetings on Sunday. Like that feels really healthy to me, in some balance for sure. And I'm sure your kids thrive on that routine a little bit too when they know certain things are coming. And it sounds like you're training them a little bit along the way.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah.
Which is good. It's going to teach them good structure, the ones that are coming up a little bit. So what's your favorite thing about being a doula, would you say?
My favorite thing about being a doula is probably everybody's favorite thing. No birth is the same, right? Everyone you walk into, that experience is different. I love the sound of labor. So when you get to that transition part, right, that either whether a mom is humming or she's moaning or the rhythm that happens in labor, I love that. I love being able to be invited into an intimate space with a stranger. Ultimately, we're strangers, and given the opportunity to partake in that. I reverence that opportunity so much. And yeah, that's the piece. I'm always saying thank you to the families after. Thank you for allowing me in this space. I don't take it for granted being able to come in and take part.
Yeah, I always say it's such an honor to be invited into that space because you're right, where we have no rights into that to be there in that sacred space with them, but it's also really big responsibility,
Oh, definitely.
and just being a part of their memory for the rest of their lives is
Yes.
such a big responsibility. But I think doulas do a really good job of understanding and acknowledging how important that space is. And it's not just another day in their life. It's not just another day at work. It truly is something that they're going to remember, as Penny Simkin taught us, forever.
Yes. Yes.
What would you say is CCDS for you as a doula, as an author, as a community leader?
Yeah, so I think I want to continue to stay in the doula space and help in birth, but I want to do more childbirth education. I really think that's the next space. I believe I really understand how to get a baby here in a natural sense, what the preparation that it takes, the body to go into labor and actually for a birthing person to actually do it without medication if that's what they want, right? Like I think I've understood that, and I really want to go in a more education space. I don't see a lot of black birth educators offering birth education, and so that will. And I'm getting older, so my body, I don't know how long it take me upside down with mama sometime, and so. But I want a real space to still be able to serve, but just transition that service to families in a different way. So in my regular life, I'm doing this work. It's nonprofit leadership. It's really transformational leadership. I'm not the visionary who planned to stay forever. That's never been my plan. So I'm called into spaces that are on fire, that needs intentional work, somebody that's going to come in and not be afraid of the dirty stuff. And so I like this, like I'm calling a serial interim position. So I wouldn't mind doing this for another organization. You get to quick fire learn and do things, and low hanging fruit. Well, it's not really low hanging fruit, but it's transformational work. And you get to help employees calm, right? Things are going to be okay. You settle things, and then you hand it over to a person who will expand on that vision and keep it going. So maybe staying in this space. Yeah, who knows? I go with the flow of life.
Yeah, you do. And I mean, I don't know when you sleep, because I see you at this leadership event or this gala or all kinds of stuff that's happening in the community, getting all kinds of awards. Just, I don't know. How much do you sleep?
I actually sleep 6 to 7 hours a night. So I started going to bed a little bit early. I told you, when I turned 40, I really started focusing on myself and knowing that I have needs, right? I was really burning myself out in a way. I still was effective, but I was burning myself out. And I needed to say, okay, Talethia, what do you need? And I realized that if I give myself what I need, which is small things, I can just go that much further. And part of that is being able to say, okay, I'm going to get into bed, right? And I'm going to set times. Because I used to stay up late because I was reading. I was educating myself, learning something new. And now I'm like, okay, you can do that for an hour and these little small micro bits of information and not full on cramming. And I'm just taking better care of myself. And that allows me to be all the places that you see me, and not really just crash and burn.
Which is such a good message for doulas and perinatal health professionals in general, because I think we don't always do a good job at taking care of ourselves. And when we go into births or postpartum experiences, sometimes you're with families for hours upon hours upon hours on end. Maybe don't go to the bathroom if you need to go.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe don't eat or drink and all of those things.
You went out for a little bit.
It says a good message and reminder that we need to meet our own basic needs.
Right.
And
That's
not
right.
really self-care, because self-care feels so indulgent. When people say self-care, they think we're going to the spa. But sometimes self-care is just eating a solid meal and getting to bed early and maybe getting in the bathtub or doing something that just brings you a little bit of quiet and peace
That's
inside.
exactly that. Right. I started back writing poetry. So I had all these thoughts in my head and I wasn't writing. I wasn't taking that time to like pour it out. I talk a lot, and most people say, well, you talk, you still write. Of course, that is a real release for me. Thus the name of my book, Only Paper Understands. And I really, really believe that paper is the thing that understands me better than anything. Doesn't judge me, doesn't stop me or ask me to understand. Can you say that in a different way? Doesn't do that. And so I started back writing like poetry and really documenting my space and some of my healing journeys, and making fun of some of the spaces I was in my writing that was used to be very serious, for me. And so hopefully one day somebody will pick up those journals and read that poetry, and they too will be able to laugh at a space that they're in, or some growth, or they'll find a bit of antidote for their own lives. Because I'm super transparent when I'm writing on paper.
Yeah. I'm curious about that title. Where did you come up with that?
It's what I've said always. So I got my first journal when I was 7. It was a birthday gift with a beautiful little black ballerina on the front of it. And I have journaled ever since, but I've never consistently journaled in one journal. I name my journals. And so I've had FAMU experience, misunderstood misses. That was the one I wrote in when I got married. A mother's heart. It's about my children. They've all had these crazy names. And so Only Paper Understands it's how I felt my whole life. I've really understood by paper. No judgment.
I think it's such a profound title. I love it. Well, I really appreciate you coming on with us today. Most of our population of listeners is going to be doulas. So do you have any words of wisdom to doulas about any of it? Self-care, expanding into community work? Any thoughts for our doulas?
Yeah, I think that we need to ensure that we stick together as doulas. There's a lot of professionalizing the work happening in a formal way that I think we've done this work informally, but professionally, right? So we are professional. We don't need extra regulations. I think remember to own our doula voice in that space as we, as doulas, becoming more and more popular and more accessible, and then funded by federal and state programs. The regulation around it, let's stay together and create community so that we're part of these conversations, because we understand everything has rules and that's going to happen. But if we are out of it, they will make these rules up for us. So that's an important thing for us to continue to stay active and involved in what's going on. And the second thing I'll say is journal, not just to keep records of those births, but to remember like where you are and what you're learning in each space, something to take away. I write down 3 things from each birth, and I will give that to you all if you don't do it. Write down your takeaway from each birth, and sometimes go back and look at that and just see how far you've grown.
Wow, that's so good. With our kids, we do like highs and lows, and it's like almost the takeaways, like the highs and lows of the birth you experienced or the things you learned. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
You are welcome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, you are such an inspiration to me. I love watching you, even if it's just on social media. I think you're doing really good work, and I'm proud to know you. I'm really...
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate you for helping me start my doula journey. It was the first time I ever been in a space where I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and understanding it in a way that was so pure. You talked about all the things and the inequities, the origins, and I don't know if anybody who hasn't experienced you as a trainer gets that from anybody. I was so profoundly impacted by the training experience that I had. And anytime I get a chance, when people ask, while I am a part of Grow Doula, I tell them Melissa Harley is the person. That's where you need to go, because you're going to get a well-rounded training and encouragement to continue to grow and to build yourself as an entrepreneur, right? That's a part of what you teach. And so thank you so much for the work you do as well.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind for you to say. And we love person-to-person referrals. I think those are important because sometimes people are just looking at like names on a website and they really don't know the heart behind the work. And I definitely have been passionate about this work since I started in 2003. And so I love growing doulas in general. I like expanding our work and supporting doulas. And I said this in a podcast I recently recorded as well, but I just really believe in that peer-to-peer mentorship model where we can all learn from each other. So you're an inspiration, and I've learned from you today. Will you share how people can find you?
Yes. So I'm on Facebook by my full name, Talethia O. Edwards, Instagram by T.O. Edwards, or you can go to my website, still working on it, but it's accessible, www.talethiaedwards.com. And LinkedIn by my name. I'm everywhere by my name.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And I'll be watching all the great things you're doing.
All right. Thank you, Melissa.